Hi, this is the MCT Witch, and this is one of my witchy musings. Today I want to talk about reality transurfing. I've come to the conclusion, after studying and practicing many reality transurfing concepts over the past little bit, that everything I'm into, whether it's as simple as gardening, to something as complex as magic and witchcraft, it's all tied up in knots and loose threads and twisty thorns, all up in a tug and pull and whipsawing, energy-draining clusterfuck known as pendulums. That's right. If you are a witch who believes in conjuring and working with demons or spirits, etc., that's cool and far out, whatevs. I'm not saying one thing or the other about it. Same for someone that believes that dolphins make the best lovers, or that children are born all over the planet recalling in vivid details past lives. Who's to say what is the truth? Who's to say? What is the truth? Face it. No one fucking knows. We just have beliefs and epiphanies and a strong desire to want to believe certain things. In the end, no one actually knows. No one. That's my opinion. My point is, pendulums exist wherever excess importance exists. Let me repeat that. My point is, pendulums exist wherever excess importance exists. If a lot of people care about what a certain person does or thinks, or vice versa, when an individual is coerced into following some norm or conformity, lest he be shamed for not following said norm or conformity, then a pendulum exists. If we as individuals cannot let go of the importance of pleasing or arguing with the participants in the pendulum over the issues of the pendulum, then we as individuals find ourselves permitting the draining of free energy from our bodies. And without free energy, we are unable to act on those next steps which would bring us closer to our soul goals. The pendulums of worrying about what people think, or trying to have the smartest or cleverest comment for some social media group, or trying to have some other accomplishment that increases our barely acknowledged constant need for validation of our own personal significance, then we are like a ping pong ball bobbling along the surface of an ocean, unable to see over the waves or to dictate the direction we want to move. And when the pull of the pendulum gets to be too much, we withdraw into ourselves or drown our doubts and fears by distracting ourselves with yet another pendulum, be it entertainments, alcohol, complaining, gossiping, judging others, or indulging ourselves with hours on the pity pot. None of these behaviors and strategies get us back to the unity of mind and soul, but rather, due to the narrowing of free energy passageways in our bodies, they take us farther away from even having hope that our true desires can ever be known or fulfilled. Depression is at its core hopelessness. If not total hopelessness, a sort of resigned acceptance that we're basically already screwed based on how we feel at that time. Depression and a lack of energy go hand in hand. But to be in a state of unity with the mind and soul is antithesis to depression. The two states cannot exist at the same time, not in our perception. Thus, moving forward, I know I'm going to endeavor to understand the strategies for accessing more moments of unity between my mind and my soul. Which sounds like such a cold and clinical way to describe the experience, which we've all felt at some point or another. That moment when your heart floods, your mind is clear, and all around you you feel one with everything. It's like a walking orgasm with your clothes on and no funny business downstairs. There's nothing that you can't handle. You feel powerful, in control of yourself, confident that you can charm your way out of any trouble that might come your way, and persuade with the ease of your tongue and the engaging way you bring each person towards you. You will charm them so easily that they will eagerly agree to any small favors you ask of them. By helping out the person, radiating free energy, which comes from the spark or energy, the internal sun inside you flares. And that happens the moment the soul and mind are aligned. It is so bright, this spark of energy coming from inside you, when your mind and soul are aligned, that it lures and attracts people to you. That these fleeting and brief moments of mind and soul merging and being one can be increased to more often and for longer is a desire that I have. It is a desire you might also want to have. Reality Transurfing is a very interesting model. But it also feels to me a lot more like magic than, say, the law of attraction. I will endeavor, as I continue to study reality transurfing, as well as continue my practices in magic and witchcraft, I will endeavor to find the unity of the mind of my intellectual studies and the soul of my beliefs. Where can I merge these together? I mean, for example, so many concepts within witchcraft and magic contradict the ideas and suggestions of Vadim Zealand. For example, never tell anyone they're wrong is something he says in book 3, chapter 2, I believe, when discussing the concept of frailing, where you get external intention to work in your favor by tapping into the internal intention of others and helping them get what they want. If you believe that it's okay to focus on negative aspects of your life and try to fix them with certain spells, then in the Vadim Zealand world, you are, by fixating on the problem, by trying to prepare a spell to solve the problem, you are, in essence, just feeding the problem by giving it importance, which totally turns the concept of many magical practices on its head, and I find that difficult to, I find it difficult sometimes for the concepts to coexist. And I am an analytical person, and I doubt everything. And this is always too complicated for me. I can't find the simple answers. So already I'm creating a pendulum in my own mind. This is becoming too difficult. La, 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 and it makes me want to quit and go do something else. Natural tendency. It's not one of my virtues. And yet, knowing that I have this character defect, a character defect that I'm sure many of the rest of the world also has, a desire to bounce around from one thing to another, seeking the simple answer that works every time, the fact that I have this defect used to bother me quite a bit. But one of the concepts of reality transurfing is to not find your flaws as something to worry about. In other words, accept your flaws, don't try to hide them, and drop the importance. So whether I decide at some point to work black magic or baneful magic or whatever you want to call it, is a decision that I'll make when I make it. And I don't need to have that decision made in advance, because I'm going to drop the importance of whether or not it makes sense in light of the reality transurfing concepts, which I'm endeavoring to understand and in some cases practice. My whole point is that no matter what anyone says, we each have to find our own path, whatever that is. And to make something, to stuff it into the square peg into the round hole, to beat it with a hammer, to try and force it, is pointless. There's no point in it. So I'm not going to worry about it. But I just wanted to say that I have backslid a little bit from previous points of view where I was avoiding the news, flat out avoiding it. Whenever there's a school shooting or something, I just can't cope. It affects me, my emotions, my heart. I just block it from my mind. I don't want to watch the news, and I get really upset when the news comes on or people talk about it. And I was doing pretty well for a while there, not watching the news. And then the other day, something in the news caught my attention, and all of a sudden, I've been sucked back in. But this time, unlike previous times, I'm aware that I've been sucked in, and I'm not feeling emotional or particularly interested. It's more like entertainment for me right now, the news and what's going on, than it is something I'm concerned about or wanting to write letters to congressmen about or wanting to hold signs and march about or whatever. In other words, I'm curious and I'm watching it like I would watch an episode of Parks and Rec. But if I find myself feeling sick again and becoming caught up in what's going on and having fear and feeling hopeless, or all those sort of emotions and energies that would grab onto me before when I watched the news or listened to the news too much, then I know that the pendulum has got its grips in me again and I am losing control of the situation. So at this juncture, I'm already tired of the news because, as usual, there's always more hype than information, and after a while it becomes tedious, especially when monumental events just don't occur as predicted by so many people in the media. except for the next crisis or issue that comes along. And I'm already finding myself distracted from my other tasks, which I do need to attend to because of the indulgence that I've been giving myself to tap into the pendulum of the news once again. So I just wanted to share a little bit about where I'm coming from a reality transurfing point of view, and also as a witch. I'm in my new house now, so there's an echo. I apologize, but that's just how it is when you go from a tiny place to a bigger place. There's just not a lot of furniture. There's no carpet, so everything just bounces off the walls. But I kind of like it. I mean, I really like it, the house. Maybe not so much the sound, but I haven't set up a Magick space yet. I'm far from being ready for that. So there's a bit of a disconnect right now. I feel separated from my magical practices. And I think that I will feel happier if I come up with some kind of ritual in the new space, as well as get my magical room completed and set up. But in the meantime, I think that I'll just continue to record some more of book 3 because it's really fascinating. And I hope that you're all listening to it from the very first book, and work your way through it. If you go to my main page, the Magic Cauldron of Transformation, and then you go to the playlists, you'll find book 3 is listed there. And if you start at the very beginning, it should, if you have autoplay on, take you from one video to the next, so that you can hear the entire book. It's not all recorded yet, but I'm working my way through it. And I hope that everybody doesn't mind that I've broken it into components instead of reading entire chapters all at once. I just don't have the time to sit down and read all of it at once, and I don't think my computer could handle the processing of that really, really long, hour-long read that it would be if I did have the time and energy to do that. So I think it's also kind of nice just to be able to hear them in bite-sized chunks and to be able to go back to a specific one that resonates, such as frailing, which is great. But reality transurfing is super interesting, and it's made a big difference in my life so far. But again, I'm skeptical about anything that's supposed to be the answer to all things, and I am taking Vadim's information with grains of salt that are very big and coarse. I don't want to be a groupie. I don't want to have the wide eyes of a person who just, okay, this is it. This is the answer. Everything Vadim Zeland says is das Wahrheit. That I don't want to succumb to that, because as he said himself, and this is interesting, I need to talk about this. He said at one point in the first big book, the giant yellow book, volumes 1 through 4 or 5, I can't remember. He said in that at one point that if reality transurfing became like a religion and people were charging and you had to take a class in order to become whatever, that would make it a pendulum, because there would be these rules, and then there would be people in control, and they are dictating, and then there's disagreements about what this means and what that means, and that's a whole pendulum thing. And from what I've gleaned from the Vadim Zeland books is that he's not somebody that's wanted that. Although it's difficult to know much about him because everything written about him as far as just the guy or the man that I've found so far is in Russian. Very little is known about this man's life, to me at least. And if somebody has some English articles about him and what he's done outside writing these books, I'd love to have you put them in the comments below so that I can learn more. So I just wanted to say that I'm not planning on becoming a guru about reality transurfing or charging people for access to some class that I might teach on the subject, because first of all, I don't think that's what Vadim Zeland wanted. And second of all, my sense of self-importance is not that inflated that I think I know better than you. So take what I say for what it's worth, which is my opinion. Tell me what you like or don't like about reality transurfing. If you're a witch or a magician, talk to me about how the two belief systems can work together or not work together. And thank you for listening. That's the end of this witchy musing. I hope you liked it. Like and subscribe. Or not. Take care.